to Learning Kitchen Live Episode 7. My name is Jessica Burch. I'm one of the dietitians at Community Servings, and today we're going to be talking about desserts. Oh, I should also mention that this is the home edition, so as many of you I'm sure are finding yourselves working from home in the middle of this pandemic, so am I, so welcome to my kitchen. As I said, we're going to be talking about desserts today, and that does not mean that I'm going to say desserts are off limits. I'm not going to tell you that you are restricted to eating apple slices and carob chips. I actually think that if you deny yourself the delight of a sweet treat now and again, you're going to set yourself up for more pain than's necessary, cause more harm than's good. So we're going to just talk about ways that we can make little switches to the things that we might be eating, switch in some ingredients that might be a little bit better for us, talk about portion sizes a little bit, and try some things out and see how it goes. So let's get started, because what I really want to do is get this in the oven as quickly as I can so you can get a sneak peek by the end of the class. The first dish that I'm going to be making is whole grain blueberry nectarine crisp. So let's get going. I've got 4 nectarines that are pre-sliced here and 2 cups of blueberries that are rinsed. And I'm just gonna slice one more nectarine in case you want some tips on how to slice a nectarine. I love nectarines, they're one of my absolute favorites. If they're not your favorite thing, you can sub in peaches or plums or apricots. When it comes to stone fruits, you wanna make sure that you're getting one that if you squeeze it, your fingers aren't going through it. It's not a total mush ball. Or that it's not so hard that you could break a window with it. That being said, either of those versions of the fruit would probably work. It just won't necessarily be as easy to cut. So in order to cut this, what I'm going to do is, I've got my knife. I'm hopefully not going to cut myself on screen, and I'm just going to go through till you feel the stone or the pit in the middle, and cut it all the way around. And then I'm gonna cut the other way so that it's in quarters, like this. And then I'm gonna take those quarters and I'm just gonna go through them and make them into about, this isn't the most perfect cutting I've ever done, but into about 1 inch, half an inch, 3/4 of an inch. It's your day. How do you feel about cutting slices? And there we go. Once we're done with that, you can just, of course it's going to be hard right now because I'm trying to make it look so easy. Okay. I've got all my pieces and I'm just going to, oh, there we go. Scoop in, or I don't know, pull in, and you just kind of peel the pieces off now, like almost like turning the pages of a book. Oh, there's my oven. It's preheating. I must be totally crazy to bake in the middle of this heat wave that we're having, but the deliciousness that is about to come out of this is totally worth it. All right, so, oops, broke the pit. So we get that all in our bowl. One more. Okay, I'm gonna rinse my hands off real quick. All right, so I picked nectarines and blueberries because they're in season right now, and I wanted to focus on seasonal fruits. That, if they're not for you, the nice thing about this recipe is that you can sub in any fruit you would like. So figure out what's good for you, and it will also work at any time of year if you're focused on using seasonal fruits. So apples with vanilla. Okay, sorry about that little pause. So I'm gonna add in, uh-oh, I might have not gotten a big enough bowl. Okay, so I'm gonna precariously add in my blueberries and my nectarines, and then to this I'm gonna add, I definitely need a bigger bowl. This is gonna end badly. Let's see. All right, much bigger bowl. So I'm going to graciously dump my nectarines and my blueberries into my big old bowl here. And to this, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of whole wheat flour. And the juice of juice of half of a lemon. It's about a tablespoon of lemon juice. If you have one of the pre-squeezed lemon juice bottles, you can just use that. And I have the zest of 1 lemon. The lemon is optional, but the nice thing about lemon is that it enhances the flavor. It makes things bigger and brighter and bolder, and so I think it works really well in making this dish even yummier. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I added the flour to be a little bit of a binder, soak up some of the juices that are going to leak out of the fruit when they're cooking. And so I'm going to talk about some tips for healthy desserts, or desserts that will fit seamlessly into a healthy diet. And the first one is to try to pick desserts that are based in fruits. And I'll talk about these 3 tips in a little bit more detail in a few minutes, but we're starting with a fruit-based dessert. Okay, so this is looking good. I'm going to set this aside while we prep the rest of our ingredients, and hopefully I have a big enough bowl. So, and it's getting hot from the oven. So in here, we're going to talk about the next 2 tips. So the first tip is this. We're going to use whole wheat flour. That's a 1/4 cup. And 3/4 cups of oats. Both of those are whole grains. So the second tip is to use whole grains. Next to this, I'm going to add in some chopped up almonds. These are optional as well. I really like them because they add a little extra crunch, a little extra flavor. They're good for you. Why not include them? We're going to do 1/3 cup of brown sugar. And I lost my teaspoon. I think my son helped me lose that. So I'm going to measure out 4 1/4 teaspoons of cinnamon for a grand total of 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And I'm going to give this a little mix right there. And so now we're moving on to tip number 3, which is this little beauty right here, which is canola oil. So happy oil, heart happy. Choosing a fat that's good for us, and trying to avoid the ones that aren't quite as good. So typically in this type of dish, you would probably use a butter, but we're subbing in the canola oil. And so I'm just going to mix this around, you can see, until it's all incorporated and there's no little dry areas left. It's evenly mixed. And we're going to get it in the oven as quickly as we can. So if you're just joining now, my name is Jessica. I'm one of the dietitians at Community Servings. This is Learning Kitchen Live, episode 7, and we are doing desserts. We are making a whole wheat blueberry nectarine crisp. All right, so next I'm going to just grease my pan with another little bit of canola oil. It's about a teaspoon. If you have one of those spray canola oil things, it's a little bit easier than this. If you don't mind getting your fingers dirty. All right, so that's why we have towels. Okay, so now this is the tricky part, so pay really close attention, because if you don't get this right, then it's going to ruin the whole dessert. I'm going to take my fruit here, and I'm going to dump it in my my 8x8 baking dish. I know, really, really difficult, right? So get that all in there. If you have extra time and you're feeling like you want to make things extra pretty, you can certainly take a few minutes to line them up all really nice. Doesn't matter. They're getting a nice little topping on them. You won't even see them. And it's not going to make a bit of difference when you start eating them. Right? So just kind of mushing them down so they're even. Got an even layer along the top. And then the next super difficult part to this recipe is just dumping this on top. Putting a nice even layer of our oats and our almonds, a little bit of sugar. Oh my gosh, this smells so good already. It hasn't even started to bake. The other thing I wanted to mention is that you can definitely use frozen fruit for this recipe. The one thing with that is I would let it thaw before using it, because the extra liquid that will come out of the frozen fruit will make this dish a little bit soupy. If you don't mind soupy, okay. But you can just drain off that extra liquid, put it in a smoothie, make a marinade, make a salad dressing. Don't let it go to waste. It's going to taste really good. But then that will be a way that you can get delicious fruit flavor in a dish like this year round. I'm going to rinse off my hands and pop this in the oven. All right, so here she goes. So the recipe, if you choose to look at it afterwards, will be posted in the comment section underneath the video on the Facebook page. If you look at it, it says to preheat the oven to 375 and cook for 30 to 45 minutes. I would really like to show you what it looks like when it's done, so I'm bumping the heat up to 400 and I'm going to try to cook it in 25 minutes. The reason that that's something that you might not want to do is because it could make it so that it doesn't cook quite evenly and it gets a little bit too crispy on the top. I'm not going to care. I'm going to really enjoy it anyway. But if you have the time to cook it for a little bit longer at a little lower temperature, it will just probably produce a slightly better product. Okay, so if you're just joining now, this is Learning Kitchen Live. I'm Jessica, and we are doing desserts today. And I have another recipe. I'm not going to just make you wait for 25 minutes for this to come out of the oven. But I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about those 3 tips that I mentioned when we're trying to find ways to seamlessly fold desserts into a healthy diet. And then we'll start making another thing. So the first of those 3 tips was to try to pick a dessert that's based in fruits. Fruits are naturally sweet. They have lots of natural sugar in them, so no sugar added necessary, right? When you cook or bake fruits, that sweetness gets enhanced and makes an even more sweet, delicious dessert, so you won't even notice that you don't have the sugar in there. I used to teach a cooking class, a weekly cooking class for children between the ages of 5 and 18. It was quite an age range. We had some interesting moments, but one of the favorite dishes was baked apples. And all it was we would core out the apple, fill it back up with chopped up apple and a sprinkle of cinnamon or maybe some apple pie spice, and bake it. And to see the kids eat it, you would think it was the most decadent, butter-filled, sugary dessert. But no, all it was baked apples. They offer a lot, or fruits offer a lot of vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, fiber. They're great for you. And if you can incorporate them into desserts and have that be the base of your desserts, they don't have to be raw. We're cooking right now. We're adding lots of other ingredients, but it actually ends up being a lot healthier for you. So that was tip number 1. The second tip is to include, when you can, whole grains. So if you had tuned into my class a few weeks ago, we had talked about how the difference between whole grains and refined grains is that whole grains has everything. So it has all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the fibers, and the protein. Whereas the refined grains, like the white flour, they just have the carb. So if you can make a choice to give yourself or give your body more of those really delicious or really necessary nutrients that taste really good, why not give it a try, right? So you can normally swap 1 for 1 So like if you're using 1 cup of refined white flour, you can use 1 cup of whole wheat flour. The one thing that I will say though is that if you're baking a cake or cupcakes and trying to swap in whole wheat flour, it will end up being a little bit denser than the product that you would make with the refined white flour. So you can give it a try and see how it goes, or you can do half and half. So doing half a cup of white flour, half a cup of whole wheat flour. Little tiny changes like that make a big difference in the long run. You can also look for recipes that are already based in whole grains. So recipes that incorporate oats or buckwheat flour, quinoa flour, cornmeal. All of these things are whole grains. There's lots and lots of recipes out there, and look for them. If you can find a dessert that is based in whole grains, that incorporates fruit, you're already giving your body more nutrients than some of the other things you might pick up for a dessert, right? All right. So that was tip 1, fruit. Tip 2, try whole grains. And tip 3 is to try to choose or substitute in a fat that's good for our hearts. So butter is one of the more common fats that's used in desserts. And butter is full of saturated fat. So is coconut oil and palm oil, which are 2 other oils that are often used in baking or in desserts. Stick margarine, Crisco, those are, I think, in my humble dietitian opinion, pure and awful evil. They are man-made trans fats that are one of the worst things that we can possibly eat. So if you take nothing away from this session other than never to ever buy stick margarine or use it or Crisco ever again, please just do that. I would rather you use butter, okay? The saturated fats and the trans fats are not very good for our heart or cardiovascular system. So if you can instead swap in an unsaturated fat, something like the canola oil that I use today, or vegetable oil, soy oil, the tub margarines are fine. So the ones that come in a tub, those are great. The ones that are in the stick, no, don't look at those. Run away. But they can be substituted, the unsaturated fats, the canola, the soy, the vegetable, or the tub margarine, can be substituted at a 1-to-1 ratio. And again, if it doesn't turn out the way that you like, you can try doing half and half. You can try another type of oil. The one thing that I would note is if you decide to try to use olive oil instead of butter or margarine or something like that, it has a more pungent taste. For some things it's really great, but remember, cooking enhances flavors. So that olive oil flavor that you might really like drizzled on something will get more intense in a baked good. So think about what it is that you're cooking and whether or not that flavor would work well. And if you don't think so, try one of the other oils like canola oil or vegetable oil, because they essentially have no flavor and it's not going to affect your dish in any way. Okay, so that was a lot of talking. If you have any questions, I don't know if you can hear, I'll try to talk louder over the fan in my oven here. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to post them into the comments section underneath the video. My colleagues Beth or Val will try to answer them, and if I can see them pop up on the screen, I'll try to answer them as well. And if you're just joining us now, welcome to Learning Kitchen Live, episode 7. We're doing desserts, and I'm going to grab some more ingredients so that we can start our next dish. All right, so we are going to be making chocolate peanut butter banana and ice cream. So yes, I said chocolate, I said peanut butter. I did not say ice cream though, I said nice cream. So this isn't exactly a perfect swap for ice cream, but it is darn tasty. It's an excellent cool sweet to cool you down after a really hot summer day. and it's super, super easy to make, so why not give it a try, right? The combination of the cocoa powder and the peanut butter with the creaminess of the frozen bananas makes this almost like peanut butter cup delicious bomb yumminess. So, try it. If peanut butter and chocolate are not for you, you can use different fruits. So you could do banana with raspberry and mango. You could do banana with cocoa powder and strawberry. I should mention, and I should have mentioned earlier, that I give full credit of this recipe to my friend and former colleague Alice Townsend. This is her recipe, and it's good. So let's see. The key is, well, first you need something that will do the chopping, and this is going to be loud. I'm sorry, so you're going to have to stick your fingers in your ears for a minute. But I've got a Cuisinart. You can use a blender. Either or is totally fine. And you're going to see how super simple this is. We're going to start with 4 frozen bananas, and as I said, frozen is essential. Otherwise, you're going to get more of a smoothie. Smoothie's not bad. It's just not what we're going for right now. And you can throw the bananas in the peel straight in the freezer, let them thaw down a tiny bit, and then peel them, and then stick them back in the freezer for a minute so they harden up, or you can pre-slice and then freeze it that way. But if you've got some bananas that are looking a little questionable, this is a great thing. Just chop them up and have them on hand for later. So bananas, I've got a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, and a 1/4 cup of peanut butter. Oh my gosh, I mean, this smells good, but sorry, you can't smell the crisping up in the oven below. All right, peanut butter, and I've got a tablespoon of maple syrup. You can leave this out. I think it kind of adds another layer of flavor. I would not substitute in sugar or brown sugar because it will add a grittiness, and that's not what we're going for. We're going for smooth sherbet, sorbet kind of texture. If you don't have maple syrup or don't like it, you could use honey, you could use agave syrup, or just leave it out. It's still going to be delicious. And then a 1/2 teaspoon times 2, because I don't know where my teaspoon is, of vanilla. All right. And now the loud part. Fingers in your ears. Here we go. Oh, it's not that loud. So the thing about frozen banana is it's frozen, it's hard. So this might take a few minutes for it to break down. It looks like chocolate icing. I'll show you in a second. If it's really frozen hard, you can always add a little bit of milk, without milk. I would say do it 1 tablespoon at a time, because you don't want this to turn into a smoothie. We're going for like an ice cream-esque treat. All right, so where'd my bowl go? There we go. This looks amazing. All right. I mean, did you see how easy that was? Oh my gosh. And look at that. It's basically, it looks like chocolate icing. You could convince yourself that you're just eating a big old bowl of chocolate icing. Can you see? Yum. Oh, so good. Sorry that I get to eat it all and you're not here to share with me. So the one thing that I would say about this recipe, I'm actually going to stick this in the refrigerator, is as it starts to thaw, it turns into a little bit more of a smoothie texture, which again is not a bad thing. You might want to add a little bit more liquid. But it doesn't really freeze and scoop very well. So it's not something, it's kind of like an immediate gratification dessert. You don't want it to hang out for too long. The other thing that you can do, and actually, since I've got another minute or two while this is going, I might do some of this right now. If you have a popsicle mold, which I have for my little one, you can, oh, that's not gonna work. Use a spoon. Paper cups and popsicle sticks. It is an excellent way to, if you're not going to eat all of it at once, save some for later. It's so creamy. Can you see like how deliciously creamy? It kind of reminds me of Nutella almost. Yumminesses. All right. Well, fill up one more of these and stick them in the freezer. And Jacob, my son, will be thrilled later. I'm just gonna pop in my little, this thing is really cute. Popsicle tops. And we will set this aside and check on our crisp. Okay. Chocolate, banana, peanut butter, popsicles, and an ice cream. All right, let me put this aside. I'll be right back. Okay, and I'm gonna take a peek and see. Oh, I can smell the crisp. It's getting crispy. Oh, yeah, it's looking great. Let's pull this out, and I'm gonna let it cool down a tiny bit. And see all that bubbly, juicy, delicious blueberry explosion nectarine yumminess. Oh. Yeah, I am a little crazy to bake when it's 90 degrees out, but I'm gonna enjoy it later. So, the other thing that I just wanted to mention was, so I went over those 3 tips, trying to pick desserts that are based in fruit, trying to incorporate whole grains into desserts as often as you can, and trying to pick the heart-healthy fats or the heart-happy fats as often as you can as well. But so why do we want to kind of think about, or well, let me rephrase that. When we think about desserts, the main thing that we think about is sugar, right? And I said at the beginning that denying yourself sweets can end up being, do more harm than good in the long run. That being because if you say, no, I can't have it, I can't have it, I can't have it, I can't have it, all of a sudden you get to that time where you're like, oh, I need it. And you eat an entire sheet cake all at once. Well, maybe not, but something close to that. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we're incorporating the things that we want, that we get joy from, into our day-to-day lives, and figuring out ways to make them, as I said, kind of fold into what we're trying to do to stay as healthy as we can. Foods that are very high in added sugars, so whether that's cane sugar, like the white sugar that we think of, or brown sugar, because they're basically exactly the same from a nutrition standpoint, and high fructose corn syrup. Again, all of these things are just sugar. We want to try to reduce the amount of those things that are coming into our body, just because there's a lot of them out there. They end up in a lot of foods that we eat. We tend to eat large portions of them, and in the long run, they're not very good for us. Over time, if we just inundate our body with sugar, it can lead to developing diabetes. It can lead to having weight gain, unhealthy weight gain, and these are things that we want to try to avoid. So if the regular Betty Crocker white cake or Brownies are some of your favorite things. I'm not telling you can't have them, but think about the portion size that you're having when you do have them. Instead of having a brownie that's about that big, can you have a brownie that's a quarter of that size or a half of that size? And have it with a bowl of berries or something on the side. So you're still getting the brownie that you love, but you're also adding in some things that we know are good for you, and we're cutting back on the portion. Just some little suggestions, ideas about how we can better approach desserts and still have them, not feel like we can't. So thank you so much for joining me today. How can I do this? Because this is hot. I don't know if it's gonna be too hot I'm about to pick it up with my bare hands. That would go over real well. So we did get a pretty good look at the Yummy Crisp. Nice and golden brown on the top. Yummy fruits in there. I'm gonna cool this off and enjoy some probably later this evening. I'm gonna go for a cool crisp instead of a hot crisp. I might even put like a dollop of Greek yogurt on, plain Greek yogurt, which I know might sound a little crazy, but the creaminess from that is gonna go really yummy with this. And so if you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to post them below. Even if they come up after, I can check later and I can get back to you if there's any questions. The recipes will be posted below, and please join us next week when Beth will be teaching our next Learning Kitchen Live. It will be at 12:15 instead of at noon. We're pushing back the time a little bit, but we love to have you. So thanks so much and have a great day.